Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the morning dump. It's April 22nd, Wednesday. I'm your host, Jose Galison, and this is the kitty of the day, Cricket, a little blue and white boy, a little bicolor boy. I showed you a blue and white boy the other day named Snorkel. These two look very much alike. The only big difference is if you look at the face, you can see he's just got a straight up mustache, whereas Scuba had like a mustache with a line that went up, kind of, or his name's Snorkel. I always want to say Scuba instead. My bad, I mixed up the names. But Snorkel looks like he has a little snorkel on. Now, if you like seeing my hot takes Monday through Friday around 11 a.m. Eastern, when we make it on time and when we're there, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications. That way you can see when I'm going live and when I'm dropping new episodes. We'll see you in the show.
Beautiful thing right now.
Rise and shine. It's a beautiful day.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to white lights.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
It's crazy evil.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a good one. I haven't been too crazy productive yet, but I'm going to try to take a run after this show, get the juices a-flowing. So we'll get started, I guess, on being productive together for the day. I have plenty to go over with you guys. As always, we start off the show typically with Icebreaker Content, as I like to call it, stuff that's really typically more in the fun, funny, gen pop type of sphere. So we have a couple little stories for you guys there, and then we'll get into our foreign policy coverage. It's sometimes a major named segment, sometimes it's not. Once again, it is still a named segment. We're calling it the Eternal Weekend War today. It wages on, it goes on forever, it lives on in our hearts, in our minds, and it's effervescent, it's all around us. And then we'll get into the SPLC's Terror Factory. You guys thought we got away from Oklahoma City bombing coverage. You were fucking wrong. Just yesterday, some interesting stuff dropped that, funny enough, ties directly into some Oklahoma City bombing stuff. A direct tie from today and in the past. And then we have Apocalypse Cometh. So, assuming we don't end up having to cut off the last segment, as long as I can keep this a timely fashion, I do have a little segment set up for you guys. Kind of delving into, the ill omens of the future, perhaps a little bit of biblical predictive programming. A little bit of a warning to buckle up for rough times. It looks like we might be going into some interesting economic turmoil. So kind of just apocalypse altogether, just kind of general what the fuck, what is going on with the future. So we'll talk about all that and more. As always, in between each segment, I like to pop into the chat and talk to you fine people. I try to give everyone at least one good morning, and then after that, you got to catch my interest or catch my wallet. You can leave a super chat if you'd like. Otherwise, like I said, you got to be interesting. And I do put timestamps. So for those who don't like to listen to the chat banter, so you're listening back on the replay, on the audio podcatchers or whatever, I totally get it. It's weird. You're not part of the live stream. Do you really want to hear some odd chat banter? I mean, if you're just doing listening, you're not even looking at the chat. So it's a confusing, bewildering thing. So I get it. Do you want to hear me just talking about goofy shit with the audience? Probably not. So that's why I put those timestamps down there. You just go down to the video or podcast description. They will be listed right at the jump. And most of them have a hyperlink, so we can just jump right onto the next one as soon as you can tell I'm starting to interact with the chat. But with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into our first stories of the day, our icebreaker stuff. Starting off, 1 second. Sorry, I should have had this ready to go already. This one's one of these ones that's probably completely bullshit, but I enjoy it. So we're gonna do it anyways. There's still no community notes on it. So, but this does feel like one of those X posts that's totally bullshit. But according to this, a Japanese fan spent about $4,000 for a dream date with his favorite underground idol, a full Disneyland day with rides, meals, and photos, all paid by him. Days later, he claimed he discovered the bodyguard she brought along was actually her husband, and that he had unknowingly paid for all three of them. The story exploded online after he said he felt emotionally deceived, sparking a huge debate about idol culture in Japan, which I guess it's a thing. We do have a little bit of an international audience here. If there's anyone who actually knows about this idol culture in Japan or whatever the hell this weird simp behavior is, feel free to pop off the chat, and I'll be interested to hear what you guys know about it. But especially the expectation that idols stay available to maintain fans' fantasy. After the backlash, the idol issued a public apology and said she had already left her idol, but she never confirmed the marriage. So, okay, here's a picture. This is from Otaku Culture. It says a Japanese man paid $4,000 for a date with his favorite idol and then found out her bodyguard was her husband. So you can see the photos here. Assuming this is legit, obviously, this could just be some dumb AI story. Either way, it's funny. I find it enjoyable. And I don't know, this is like, she's cute, but it's like kind of, high tier mid. I don't know, it's like not even in like just like on the higher level. This is just weird. This isn't, but I guess these Asian, don't they have isn't there like a crazy population problem where there's like way more women than there are men? So I think that's a lot of where it's coming from. So we're slowly evolving into a simp culture around the world. Things aren't looking so great for dudes. Here's another one. Apparently, more than half of men ages 18 to 49 now say they have an active sports betting account with an online sports book than like DraftKings, Caesars, FanDuel, or BetMGM. Now, this is probably just a made-up stat, but this is probably correct. It's Issy Breen says American men are more likely to have gambling debt than to have read a book in the last year. So I like this stat because it makes me feel superior because I have no gambling debt. And I've read a few books this year, so fuck you. But the economy still is trash, so I would recommend you guys do the same. Read more, gamble less. But hey, with this, this awful state of men, some of them are, kind of snapping back, saying fuck this shit. Here is one such example of that. Here is apparently some U.S. military veterans recently occupied the Cannon Building in the Capitol, protesting the war on Iran. So just, I guess it's not that crazy, but it's cool that we got an organization, got something like this set up. These guys did end up getting hauled off by the police, which, I guess a lot of people made a big deal about that, of being like, oh my God, they arrested. But that is, if you're doing a sit-in, that's like to be expected. So, it does bring on the publicity, but it's like, if you are, I don't know. I guess when it comes to like a Capitol building or something, is like, I guess it does come from our taxes, but to some degree, then you have the tragedy of the commons. Is it really completely appropriate? I guess I'm an anarchist, so in a sense, I kind of see this as I see that as not as land available for homesteading if you're able to get it, essentially any sort of public land. But generally speaking, most people, in some reasonable like belief in government, you're like, I don't know. Can we really just have the halls of Congress be wide the fuck open and anybody can do whatever the fuck they want and people can go do whatever in schools and shit? Like, I get it. There's an argument that like that would like maybe you should push for that, but most people are like, yeah, that's totally reasonable. And it's like one of these things that if you are doing a sit-in, this is likely something you are aware of ahead of time. So I know that's a little bit of silly, discourse when it comes to that, I guess. But hey, it's cool to see that these sort of things are happening. So I think it was something around like 150 or so veterans, gathered here, got hauled off. So here's a little video. I wonder what they're chanting. Just for curiosity's sake, let's watch this video. All right, they're not chanting here. They're just standing there. And then there's a couple flags. And the war in Iran. We can't afford another war. Okay, I thought maybe they were going to be chanting something cool. All right, whatever, you get the idea. Let's roll into the chat, and then we'll get into some foreign policy stories of the day. Be sure to hit that like button as you're coming in. Help the show out, because I say all the no words I'm not supposed to. So I guess it's my own fault, but help me out for my bad decisions. Good morning, murder, death, kill. One of see, there you go. I just said 3 of them right there. I'm probably not supposed to say those. Those are deboost words. Hello to you. Good morning, Gerald Hall, saying, I am so handsome today. You so true, King. Thank you. I'm glad someone noticed. Good morning, Jorge Glockton. Jose with Puss in Hand is what a way to start the morning. Yup. By the way, I think that's the last of the group of kitties I have. I have other kitties in other areas, but I have like the kitty room right there, accessible, that I grabbed for the kitty today. These guys are actually getting ready to start heading home in the next week or two. So there might actually be a few dumps I miss in the next week or couple weeks delivering kitties. But I'm gonna miss these guys. But you guys have seen them all, so you might see me start to rotate through them. And then once they're gone, then I have another generation of kitties over into kind of in the other part of my house that we will rotate over to there, and you'll get a whole new batch of kitties. So be excited, guys. We have new kitties to show off. Fairly soon. I'd say within the month or so. So keep your fingers crossed, bated breath, all that. Good morning, Northside. Good morning. Battle Stations, he says. Good morning, Think Change Repeat says, what's up, Jose? What's up to you? Good morning, Bug Fights. What up, Dumpskis? Good morning. Good morning, OG Matzo Balls. Good morning, Derp with Kerp. Morning, Plop Time. Gerald says, put in your fucking VA claim, Jose. Protect yourself and fam from the coming unpleasantness by being a welfare whore. Maybe, I don't know. I always go back. It just feels gross to do it, but then, I don't know. I go back and forth. I get it. Good morning, Tom33. Says, howdy, Nignogs. All right, guys, let's get into some foreign policy stuff. Let's get right into it. Jumping the latest in the Iran shenanigans. Trump says he will extend the Iran ceasefire, but maintain blockade on Iranian ports. 1 second. Sorry, I'm a little stuffed up, so I might have to mute occasionally, just not sound gross for you guys. Sorry, I'm coming. I think everyone in my house has just gone over being sick. That's why we didn't do a dump yesterday, by the way. It's because everyone is. I got a little touch of the sick, and so I was like, I'm going to take a little rest. I'm going to eat a little extra. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to get a little sun. Do all the things, have some fruit. Do all the things you got to do to recoup, and that way I was ready for Already Dead last night. So I'm glad I did that. But with that, I'm a little sniffly today. So just warning you, if I sound gross or nasally, I'm sorry. I will try to keep it to a minimum. But with that, let's get into the latest in Iran stuff. Trump said on Tuesday afternoon that he will extend the ceasefire with Iran, a statement that came hours before its expiration and after he said that he wouldn't extend the truce. Trump made a statement in a post on Truth Social where he also said the U.S. military blockade on Iranian ports would continue despite Iranian officials maintaining that talks won't resume until it is lifted, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not unexpectedly so, and upon the request of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan, we have been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such times their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. Trump said, I have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade and, in all other respects, remain ready and able, and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as their proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded one way or the other, he added. Earlier in the day, in an interview with CNBC, Trump insisted that he still expects the U.S. to make a great deal with Iran, but said that time was running out. When asked if he would allow the ceasefire to continue if there was diplomatic progress but no agreement, he said, well, I don't want to do that. We don't have that much time. Trump said that the U.S. has used the ceasefire to restock its military and insisted that Iran's military has been destroyed. Though according to U.S. officials speaking to the New York Times, U.S. intelligence assesses that Tehran likely has access to the majority of its missiles and launchers. The president was then asked if he would resume bombing Iran if a deal wasn't reached on Tuesday or Wednesday, and said, well, I expect to be bombing because I think that's a better attitude to go in with. But we're ready to go. The military is raring to go. Vice President J.D. Vance, U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner were expected to travel to Pakistan on Tuesday for talks with Iran, but Iranian officials held firm that negotiations wouldn't happen unless the U.S. ends a blockade. which I think that's like, I know I wasn't here for the Morning Time yesterday, so that's the sort of stuff we kind of missed. The shenanigans. Is JD Vance going? Is he not? Is there going to be talks at all? Well, it looks like they're not happening now. Blockading Iranian ports is an act of war and thus a violation of the ceasefire, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said in a post on X on Tuesday. Striking a commercial vessel and taking its crew hostage is an even greater violation. Iran knows how to neutralize restrictions, how to defend its interests, and how to resist bullying. So sounds a little bit more like a stagecraft happening by Trump here. He's kind of framing this as if, oh, this is something they were asking for over in Iran. This is not. So he's still keeping the blockade up. So we've kind of, they're indefinitely extending the ceasefire until some such point that Iran comes to the table, while also having this blockade up. So it's kind of a precarious position, but I don't know. It's kind of a little bit of a back off from where we were. So Trita Parsi seemed to have called this a while ago. Here's his commentary on this. He says, Trump caves and agrees to extend the ceasefire while presenting it as a function of the Iranian government being in disarray. Very importantly, he is also extending the ceasefire indefinitely, which reflects the outcome I have argued is the most likely. No deal, no sanctions relief, no nuclear compromise, no return to war while Iran continues to control the strait. Not a stable situation, but one in which Trump pockets the central thing he sought, exiting the war, while Iran is bereft of the main thing it was looking for, sanctions lifting. So, we are still blockading, though, so I'm interested to see what becomes of that. I struggle to believe that's going to be allowed to continue, because it's kind of wild. For example, we've gone over another tanker, this time over in the Indian Ocean for some weird-ass reason. What's it? So we're fucking with other Iranian ships out on the oceans, out in the Indian Ocean, like I said. So the U.S. War Department said on Tuesday that U.S. forces boarded an Iranian-linked tanker in the Indian Ocean as the U.S. continues to enforce a blockade against Iran, despite it being a major obstacle to peace talks. The Pentagon said the tanker, the Tiffany, was carrying Iranian oil and was previously sanctioned by the U.S., which doesn't give the U.S. the authority to seize a vessel in international waters, despite the Trump administration's claims. It says, we will pursue global maritime enforcement efforts to disrupt illicit networks and interdict sanctioned vessels providing material support to Iran anywhere they operate, the U.S. War Department said in a statement that included a video of the boarding. A U.S. military official told the New York Times that U.S. forces took over the vessel in the Bay of Bengal and that it was now up to the White House to decide what to do with the ship and its cargo. The incident came 2 days after the U.S. Navy fired on and boarded an Iranian cargo ship in the Gulf of Oman that it said was attempting to break the blockade of Iranian ports. While the U.S. claims many ships have turned away from Iran, according to data from Lloyd's List, at least 26 ships carrying oil and gas have sailed in and out of Iranian ports since the blockade started. So that's the other thing. It's kind of confusing what even is going on. There's been lots of reports that this blockade kind of hasn't been blockading, sort of. But now we have attacked 2 ships, only one of which, though, was attempting to go in that general vicinity, this other one being in the Indian Ocean. So it makes you wonder to what degree they really are actually blockading the area, or if this is some sort of game for show. Because as we've talked about numerous times in this, one of the big things about coming to some sort of détente with Iran here is how do both parties come away from this not looking like they lost? And Trump has put himself in a very unique situation where pretty much, if you are an objective person, I really don't know how you can foresee a situation after this that is not worse than how we started. Like, even in the best case scenario that they come to some sort of deal with Iran, that this isn't going to somehow be worse than the situation before. We've given Iran far more leverage. So part of it, my point being with, I guess, was the ship stuff. It almost gives this appearance of big dick energy stuff when, I don't know. They've caused some problems, fucking with a couple other ships. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. This could boil up and this could bubble over into some some pretty rough shit. Hopefully things continue to simmer down, but I don't know. We're still stuck in this this forever weekend war rotation, it seems, and hopefully we can get out of it sometime here soon. But here's one piece I did want to hone in on a little bit. Here's from Caitlin Johnstone, not Katie Johnstone. Which anyone knows about her. She's a little bit of a lefty commie sort of socialist type or whatever, but anti-war. So she gets a lot of flack for some people for positions. But I find it interesting here. She is coming out, writing a piece about a Biden official and essentially how Biden was preparing to bomb Iran as well if reelected. So I just thought this was worthwhile taking a second to kind of delve a tiny bit into this to see what this is all about. Because it has been a topic of discussion for a while. Many of these individuals, the Tuckers, the Theo Vaughns, even the Dave Smiths, I'm trying to think of other characters. Andrew Schultz, I believe, has gotten a lot of flack. These characters you kind of ushered in Trump. A lot of them, brought them on their podcasts, or Joe Rogan, kind of ushered in Trump. You kind of hyped it up, and getting a lot of flack these days for being somewhat responsible for what's going on here. So. And you guys know me, I'm a non-voter, so to some degree I kind of agree with that. But as I've said, I try to say many times, I don't know necessarily that it would be better if the shoe were on the other foot. But anyways, it looks like this very same dynamic could have played out under Biden. Now, I guess I would say I think the response from the right would have been a whole lot different had we had Biden in there. I actually think it probably could have been kind of a fucking cool situation. Maybe not cool. Cool's the wrong way to look at it. But the response from the right wing, it would have been a whole lot more stalwart than what we got now. Because with the Trump administration, there's so many people, the more establishment types that are going to cave immediately because, we don't want to fly in the face of Trump. Whereas if it was Biden, it's even the most even the Posobics, everybody, all the biggest slop fluencers are still probably going to be well, Biden shouldn't be doing this. So, but either way, point being is it may not have made a difference. I guess I'm kind of getting a stride of my point there, kind of undermining it a little bit. But this is former senior Biden advisor Amos Hochstein said during an interview on Sunday that the Biden administration had prepared to bomb Iran if they had won re-election in 2024. So here's a video. So let's just go ahead and straight up watch it. Let me make sure audio is still working. It is. All right.
Biden official. Biden was preparing to bomb Iran if re-elected. Former senior Biden advisor Amos Hochstein said...
Oh, I didn't realize this was just one of those things that reads the thing for you. I thought it was actually going to show him saying it because it had the thing of him. No, they're just reading it to us. Whatever. I may as well just read the article to you then. Hochstein was asked by Face the Nation's Margaret Brennan in July 2024. Secretary Blinken claimed Iran was 1 or 2 weeks away from having enough fissile material breakout capacity to eventually make a weapon if Iran had decided to do so. There were indirect negotiations that the Biden administration did, but it went nowhere. So when President Trump argues that he did what no other president would, is it just simply that the bill was coming due and it fell on his watch? I do think there's a certain element to that, and that's why I was supportive of President Trump joining in June to take the strikes that we had thought internally in the Biden administration. We may have to take it if there was a second term. We thought the spring, summer of 2025 was probably, we may have to be there in the same place. And we did war games. We did some practice runs on what it would look like to look into it, because that may have had to happen under our watch as well. All right, here's actually the clip now. I think this should be the clip. Let's play it now.
Let me ask you about your Mideast experience here. In July 2024, Secretary Blinken claimed Iran was 1 or 2 weeks away from having enough fissile material breakout capacity to eventually make a weapon if Iran had decided to do so. There were indirect negotiations that the Biden administration did, but it went nowhere. So when President Trump argues that he did when no other president would, is it just simply that the bill was coming due and it fell on his watch?
I do think there's a certain element to that. And that's why I was supportive of President Trump joining in June to take the strikes that we had thought internally in the Biden administration we may have to take if there was a second term. we thought that the spring, summer of 2025 was probably, we may have to be there in the same place. And we did war games. We did some practice runs on what it would look like to look into it. And because that may have had to happen under our watch as well. But he said we obliterated their nuclear program. The question then is not about what he did in June. This war we were in now did not attack the nuclear facilities again. This was not about the nuclear. So the question now becomes, can you do a deal with the Iranians? And the maximalist positions that both sides have are right now very far apart, despite all the rhetoric that we're almost there, or we are there, but if we're not there, we'll bomb the hell out of them.
Right, or who knows who's going to show up or not show up.
Okay, so there you go. Kind of saying it. By the way, I think it's interesting right here. I was reading below this what Caitlin wrote. She said, for the record, Hochstein is an Israel-born IDF veteran who reportedly played a major role in the Biden administration encouraging Israel's horrific bombardment of Lebanon in September 2024. It's astounding that anyone could literally work for a foreign military and then also be a United States citizen that is holding anything, anywhere near a public office. Insane. Okay. But anyways, I just thought that was interesting that this guy's an IDF veteran. So surprise, surprise. This guy ties a little bit into this. Here's Tucker kind of, giving his, apologies, expressing how he fucked up supporting Trump. So while I also did kind of say, kind of soften the blow a little bit here, I also got to agree with, I haven't watched this clip yet, but I think the sentiment probably what Tucker's about to say, and that, yeah, you to some degree are responsible. And the thing is, too, with a lot of these people, while, it's not even so much the issue of them supporting, it's the issue that them putting them in that position gives them a an almost a cognitive dissonance. So many of these characters that I listed before, they were so fucking slow to come to oh shit, we fucked up. Oh shit, this guy is the fucking worst. Oh shit, this guy is diddling kids. Oh shit, every whatever fucking oh shit. But I think to some degree, the act of especially supporting them, very publicly, it makes it harder. So there's, I don't know. I mean, the act of voting to some degree, I guess to some degree it is. I just think it's dumb. Just stop doing it. There's more of an argument for it in local elections, but if we're talking federal, what are you doing? Why? So yes, I do think there is something to some degree, you sort of are responsible for, you've supported this. Yeah, that's not what you, you're oh, this isn't what I voted for, but yeah, but this is kind of the game. They do this all the time. They're oh, we're going to do this, and they do another thing, and then you fell for it again. So stop fucking falling for it. And it literally goes for both sides is kind of the point I'm getting at here. So I don't know. How many times do I have to teach this lesson to you guys? Stop voting. Stay home. It's the easiest thing in the world.
Looking back, because, you and I and everyone else who supported him, you wrote speeches for him, I campaigned for him. We're implicated in this for sure.
Yes.
It's not enough to say, well, I changed my mind, or oh, this is bad, I'm out. It's in very small ways, but in real ways, you and me and millions of people like us are the reason this is happening right now.
Yes.
So I do think it's a moment to wrestle with our own consciences. We'll be tormented by it for a long time. I will be. And I want to say I'm sorry for misleading people. It was not intentional. That's all I'll say. But anyway, the question does present itself immediately. What is this? Was this always the plan? You don't want to be a conspiracy nut, but clearly there were signs of location.
All right, so big ups to Tucker for that one. I completely agree with him. I do think to some degree you're responsible. Obviously, I think it's probably in a small sense, but you are what brought this into. So hey, ups to Tucker for the apology here. Good on him. So that's cool to see. Moving on from this. Sorry if I'm sounding gross. Trying to spare you where I can. 1 second. Let me set up this. There we go. Sorry, I had to go a little off screen there. Be a little gross. All right, let's get back into it. A U.S. boat strike kills 3 in the Caribbean. So we got another boom in the ocean. Southcom said on Sunday that its forces blew up an alleged drug-running boat in the Caribbean Sea as the U.S. bombing campaign targeting small vessels in the waters of Latin America continues. Once ago, no evidence it was carrying drugs, which it hasn't really ever done. So just more murder. We're up to 181 now. So great. All civilians, because we don't know that they weren't civilians. We're just kind of doing this weird assumption. And even if they were selling drugs, they're still civilians. They just should maybe go to jail, perhaps, if you even buy into the drug war thing. So I don't even buy into the drug war, so this is insane. Just murder on the high seas. Here's a little bit of an inside look in one of these people who managed to live through this. So here's from The Guardian. It says, "We were terrified they were going to kill us. Fishers who survived U.S. boat strike speak out." It says, "An Ecuadorian fishing crew described their ordeal as victims of Trump's purported war on narco-terrorists." So figured we'd look a little bit into this piece to get a little bit of an inside look. It says, "By 4 p.m., the light was softening over the Pacific, and the crew of the Don Maca were finishing a long day hauling in lines of swordfish and albacore. Down the hold, the mood had settled into the familiar rhythm of a fishing day drawing to a close. We were just working, waiting for the last trawler to return," says Johnny Sebastian Palacios, one of the fishers. "Everything was perfectly fine. From nowhere, an explosion ripped through the boat. There was a sudden crash. Boom. It came from a drone," he said. "The blast tore through the vessel, shattering glass and injuring several crew members. I ran upstairs and saw the boat destroyed. The whole ship was stripped bare." A group of Ecuadorian fishers have described how they were attacked in a double drone strike and then detained at gunpoint by soldiers in a U.S. flag patrol vessel, in a rare first-hand account by victims of Donald Trump's militarized campaign against alleged drug trafficking boats off South America. At least 178 people have been killed in U.S. military airstrikes in the Caribbean and Pacific since the offensive began in September, according to a tally by the Washington Office on Latin America. Providing no evidence they were involved in drug trafficking once again. White House just kind of insisting these things are lawful, despite this being obviously extrajudicial killings. The Don Maca, a 35-ton fishing vessel that worked with 6 smaller boats, was about 200 miles northwest of the Galapagos Islands when it disappeared on 26 March. But a week earlier, it departed from Manta, a port city in southwestern Ecuador that has become a focal point in the country's escalating war on drugs. Its 20 crewmen, all from nearby communities, including San Mateo, Santa Marianita, and Jaramillo, insist they were fishing when they were attacked. Earlier that day, they had seen a military vessel flying U.S. colors, but thought nothing of it. "They did not signal to us, so we just carried on fishing," said Palacios. The first drone strike hit the bow of the boat, and the second hit the antenna, knocking out all communications. Debris from the explosion raked through the crew. One of the fishers, Eric Fabricio Coelho Saltos, 27, says hearing and his vision were both damaged by the blast. "When I heard an explosion, my eardrums ruptured terribly. I was covered in blood from the shrapnel." The fishers claim drones continued to circle overhead after the blast, leaving them fearing another strike. Mobile phone footage of the aftermath of the attack shows the terrified crew huddled to the stern of the ship with an alarm sounding as one of them waves a white shirt. One man appears to be wiping blood from his nose. So you can see right here that here's the video of one of the fishermen waving a white flag. So these are guys trying to, I guess they're trying to signal to the drone, fucking cut it out. Shortly afterwards, the crew said they were boarded and they were ordered to board. They were approached by U.S. Patrol Board and ordered to board. Palacios said that when the crew were on board the patrol vessel, their phones were confiscated and most photos and videos of the attacks wiped. Once the men were on the patrol boat, the U.S. personnel boarded the fishing boat and stole the crew's food and the beer, Palacios said. When Palacios looked back at the Don Maca, it was already in flames. We saw the ship burn. The crew of the patrol boat spoke English to each other and used a translator to address the Ecuadorians. From the moment we arrived in the U.S. patrol boat, they were pointing guns at us, shouting, "Get in, get in." They handcuffed us, put hoods over our heads, and pushed us around. We were terrified they were going to kill us. They were held for several hours by the vessel before being transferred to a Salvadorian patrol boat. And after several more days at sea, eventually to El Salvador, where they were taken to a military base and questioned. Later, they were handed over to immigration authorities and taken to a UN shelter. Back home, their families conducted a desperate search. This whole time, their families didn't know they were. Frustrated by the silence and lack of official information surrounding their disappearance, the fishers were eventually taken to Ecuador where they were released without charge. So all of this to be released without charge, quite the ordeal. So I know this is one of the better eventualities in these situations. These guys, it sounds like I don't think they lost anybody, whereas they've been doing a whole lot of killing. So I don't know if maybe there was an actual legitimate oopsies here. Maybe that's giving them too much credit. I mean, I don't even necessarily know if I buy that any of the other attacks actually were drug-related. We have really no reason to believe these fucking ghouls. Moving on, let's get over into Lebanon. Once again, looking bleak there. Looks like every other ceasefire that Israel ever has. So displaced Lebanese again warned not to return to Israeli-occupied South. While the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire is holding across most of the country, the far south area of Lebanon occupied by Israel continues to see some limited fighting and a massive amount of destruction as the systematic destruction of towns and villages by Israeli forces continues. Israel would just as soon the population of displaced civilians who live there stay out of the way while they continue leveling their homes to create a military buffer zone, and has warned residents of over 50 municipalities in Lebanon to just not attempt to return home. IDF spokesman Avichai Adreit says residents shouldn't attempt to return to 58 towns and villages that fall south of the Israeli-imposed yellow line, and also added that they shouldn't attempt to approach the Litani River at all. The Litani River aspect is substantial because Israeli officials had presented their intention earlier in the war to occupy the entire nation south of the river, and during the war destroyed every single bridge spanning that river. Defense Minister Israel Katz bragged that many hundreds of thousands of people were displaced from south of the river and would not be allowed to return. Though by the time the current ceasefire was reached, Israel had only captured a fraction of that territory. An estimated 1.2 million Lebanese were displaced in the course of the war, while a lot of the territory they were expelled from was as yet not occupied by the Israeli military. Whether those people can safely return either is uncertain, though, because it's not clear the ceasefire will hold. Even with the ceasefire in effect, Israel is still reporting some strikes, like a claim of destroying a rocket launcher near Kfar Kela. Even though the IDF noted the launcher was north of the forward defense line, which is to say the yellow line, they justified attacking it for posing an immediate threat to occupation forces within Lebanon. Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri reported the U.S. is pushing for the two sides to extend the 10-day ceasefire, and the U.S. is reporting additional talks will be held on Thursday, according to the State Department. So, not too hopeful on that, but I don't know. Maybe something will come of it. Apparently, they're claiming they're killing militants over there. So we got, as demolitions continue at scale south of the new yellow line, their operations have been more limited north of that area, given the present ceasefire. They have not, however, actually ceased. In Haret Saida, which is near the southern coastal city of Sidon, itself well outside the yellow line zone, the IDF issued an evacuation notice to the local pharmacist, citing the imminent demolition of the municipal building across the street. In Kiam, which is within the area, large-scale demolition of homes was still ongoing. Israel also reported having killed non-specific militants in the village of Qusar, also in the south, over what they claimed was violating the ceasefire understandings. There are as yet no details about what that entailed, nor how many were killed. Hezbollah similarly reported firing rockets at northern Israel, saying that was retaliation for Israeli violations of the ceasefire. Locals within Nabatea reported fearing the 10-day ceasefire was only a brief pause and would ultimately be an ongoing Israeli war against them, with Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz threatening to scrap the ceasefire if Lebanon doesn't meet commitments, which seems increasingly likely. We got these talks on Thursday, so we'll see. But it's not looking good. Not looking good. Got lots of little skirmishes here and there, so not looking good. And then over in Gaza, there's still murder. So pregnant woman was killed by Israeli gunfire in one of the tent camps, which they seem to just love to just open fire on tents over there. So it's continued its violations on Monday by launching attacks against the Strip. It says, as an Israeli-backed militia also clashed with Hamas-aligned fighters on the ground, which we've talked about that before. There literally are militias on the ground that are backed, but like we have like open, overt, like Gladio type stuff on the ground in Gaza. They have like basically backed gangs in the region to fight Hamas. So Gaza's health ministry says daily update on Monday, the Israeli attacks killed at least 2 Palestinians and injured 22 of the previous 24-hour period, bringing the total number of Palestinians killed to 777. And then more the following day. We get 7 more on Tuesday. So on Tuesday, they killed at least 7 Palestinians and wounded 21. An overnight bombing in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, killed 3 Palestinians. One of the victims was a man who had just been married a few days earlier. There was another strike that targeted a police checkpoint. Israeli warships on Tuesday targeted tents in Batalahia, northern Gaza, killing at least 1 woman. So we got warships shooting on tents. Al Jazeera reported that at least 1 person was killed by an Israeli attack in Gaza City's Zatoun neighborhood. Israeli drones dropped explosives on tents in the Shujia area, setting the camp on fire. All reasonable behavior, right, guys? Not insane shit to do at all. Also on Tuesday, a child who was wounded in a previous attack died, succumbing to his wounds. He was shot in his head near Jabalia about 10 days ago. So wonderful, just wonderful. And then we also go on the West Bank, some murder and destruction to talk about. We talked a little bit about this on Already Dead last night, but want to take a little bit of a closer look at this because it was kind of a wild story, I think. Sellers shot dead 2 Palestinians, including a teenage student, during an attack on a school in the occupied West Bank on yesterday. The victims were identified as As Hamdi El Nassan and Jihad Marzouk Abu Naim. They were respectively aged 14 and 32, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. The attack took place at a school in the village of Al Mughayir, northeast of Ramallah. At least 4 other Palestinians, including 3 students, were wounded by gunfire. Shortly before the attack, Al-Baidir, a human rights organization, said settlers dressed in uniforms resembling those of the Israeli army had attempted to expel farmers from land south of Al Mughayir. The organization said the settlers entered agricultural land and tried to prevent farmers from working it, heightening tensions in the area. Eyewitness accounts speaking to Middle East Eye noted the settlers were protected by Israeli infantry soldiers who accompanied them up the hill before they attacked the school and its students attempting to storm it. When the villagers attempted to stop them, the settlers began firing live ammunition. Bilal Abu Aliyah, a resident of the village and eyewitness at the scene, confirmed to Middle East Eye that settlers wearing military uniforms opened fire directly on the school and its students without any justification. It says Hamad Abu Naim, who lives near the school, said the situation escalated rapidly. He and Jihad, one of those killed, had been working in a nearby village when the attack began. When I returned, the situation was dire. I found the boy, Os, covered in blood in the schoolyard along with other injured people. As they tried to reach family members trapped inside, one of the settlers shot Jihad in the head. Scenes of panic followed as residents attempted to evacuate the wounded under heavy gunfire. The scene was tragic. More than 500 students were terrified by the intense gunfire, and their parents were trying to rescue them and get them out of school, Hamed told Middle East Eye. The shooting didn't stop for a moment. It was war in every sense of the word. According to Hassan's uncle, Faraj, the attack lasted only minutes, but was extremely violent. He said the assault appeared premeditated, aimed at inflicting as many casualties as possible. Os now joins his father, he said, referring to the killing of Nassan's father in a similar attack in 2019. He was a young child at the time and said goodbye to his father with much sadness without any fault of his own, and today he is killed in the same way. So, let me see. Is there anything on the killer here? Let's finish this. Hania Nazal, Director of Education for the Northern and Eastern Ramallah District, said the area has been a surge in settler violence. She said the students have nothing but notebooks and pens when they were attacked. The Israeli occupation killed Nassan's innocent. The schoolyard was drenched in his blood, she told MEE. The attack comes amid a sharp rise in daily settler violence across the occupied West Bank. Elsewhere on Tuesday, settlers under the protection of the Israeli army detained a truck in the Kirbet Samra area of the northern Jordan Valley. Vehicle was stopped while passing through the area and prevented from continuing, disrupting transport. Israeli forces also demolished the Al-Malah primary school in the northern Jordan Valley on Tuesday. This attack is not new to our village, Abu Aliyah said, adding that settlers are attempting to target residents and drive them away from their homes. But we will not abandon our village, and we will always defend it. Settler violence, while long-standing, has intensified sharply since October 2023, including the increased use of live fire and the systematic forced displacement of Palestinian nomad communities. The Wall and Settlement Resistance Commission said settlers carried out 497 attacks against Palestinians and their property in the occupied West Bank in March, resulting in 9 deaths. So that's in March. Almost 500 attacks and 9 deaths. So, yeah, I guess there's no information on the shooter here. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, so I don't know if it's just waiting for more information to come out. But, yeah, it was supposedly, allegedly, maybe it's changed, was some guy who was head of a yeshiva there, which is a Jewish school. And it was particularly interesting. There was another guy. I was hoping maybe we get a little bit more information on the individual, because it seems like there was a weird connection. I think it was the same date, however many, something like 6 years or something prior that kid's father died. And there's a picture of the guy who was responsible for the death of the son sitting next to the father, or no, the one who was responsible for killing the father, and they were at some event together. So I assume they had some sort of connection. I was interested to hear more. So I don't know. Maybe we'll follow up on that later. But either way, crazy shit. Also, I saw some reports. Obviously, like, it was all breaking stuff of like that the Israeli military had shot some guy in the leg who was attempting to assist. So even more to them helping out the settlers. Here's a little bit of a base story from Hungary. Hungary's incoming prime minister says ICC warrant will be enforced if Netanyahu enters the country, which is interesting for those who have kind of been paying attention to the geopolitics of what's going on over in Hungary a little bit. We just had J.D. Vance go over there trying to help Orban get in, who's kind of, let's be real, Israel's guy. And the country overwhelmingly told him to go eat a dick. And now they have this other feller in here, and this other feller says, fuck you to Israel, saying they will do their duty if the prime minister shows up, because a lot of people forget this guy is an international criminal. Like, these countries should be, if they're members of the International Criminal Court, they should be arresting Netanyahu when he comes to their country. Moving on, the war in Ukraine still rages on. So apparently they launched hundreds of drones at Russia, apparently hit some warships. So just wanted to do a quick little dip in there, let you guys know this is still going on. So we got more of these drone wars going on, which I find these particularly terrifying, the new dynamic we have created here, especially as we're going to war with Iran, all this drone warfare. So we've had a long time this idea of that violence can't touch us. And I got to be real, these drones freak the fuck out of me. So but with that, guys, let's roll in the chat, check in on you beautiful people, see what you guys got to say, and then we'll get into SPLC's Terror Factory. Help a brother out, hit that like button as you're rolling here. Let's say some more hellos. Good morning, Hotep Beavis. Says, remember, it's not just the Jews, it's the Jesuits that are a hidden hand. Yeah, that's a certain group I need to look more into one of these days. I need to take a little time to dig more into Jesuit stuff. Good morning, Fire Pixie. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Neil. Good to see you here. Good morning, JC. Listening into work. Hell yeah, brother. Good to see you. Good morning, Facts Only. Who else we got? Sirhan Solo. Click that like button, he says. Yes, please, people. Please do. Good morning, Retardo. This is Morning Jose and all dumpers. Good morning. Good morning, Daz. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Hard Ara says, can't believe I caught it live finally. Shout to my Goyim. Yeah, I actually went somewhat close to the time I'm supposed to start finally. Good to have you here, Hard Ara, my fellow Goyim. Good morning, WC Cola. Good morning, saying the morning tuck. Hell yeah, big ups, Facts. Never voted. Keep it up. Keep the streak alive. Good morning, Marty McFly. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Wokereich. Says Dave Smith and Clint Russell influenced me to vote for Trump. Those motherfuckers, they owe you a nice afternoon. That's what they owe you. They should take you out for a date. Say, they stole your afternoon. They stole, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? A couple hours? I mean, it is kind of like infinitesimal, like big of a deal, but I mean, I'm being a little silly, but I don't think they literally owe you an afternoon. Obviously, it's your fault. But good morning, Marty McFly says I voted for Yay in 2020, best vote ever. Yeah, I guess if you gotta, yeah. What else we got? Non-specific militants. Good morning, Evan Griffin. Would an RF jammer stop a drone? I really don't know. I don't know enough about the drones or that sort of nerd shit to know if that would do it. Perhaps. Good morning, Martimat. Good morning, Bug Fights. Good morning, Tony Chin. All right, guys, let's get into some of this SPLC stuff. Pretty interesting stuff. Like we just did OKC stuff the other day. Well, we're back right into it. You thought you got me out, and you sucked me right back in. But it ties into some stuff going on right now. But before we get into it, I mean, I gotta, it's kind of, I can't let Kash Patel off the hook. Before we dig into this, I mean, hey, we're talking FBI. Someone asked, we talked the other day about the whole, I don't know, whatever the fuck's going on with Kash Patel over in his FBI land there. Him hanging out with gay men over in Vegas at the Poodle Room or whatever the hell it is he's doing. And then now he had that weird emotional outburst thinking he got fired at the office. Well, here's one of the reporters asked him about that. So before we get into actually our commentary about what is even going on in this segment, I guess the DOJ and the FBI are kind of pointing their ire at the SPLC. I think that might be a little bit of a limited hangout, if you will. But we'll talk about that. But I do got to take a moment to just make fun of Kash Patel. So in this press conference that he did with Todd Blanche, kind of addressing this SPLC stuff, someone asked him about the whole expose from the Atlantic that we covered the other day. So here it is. I just think it's particularly great to see him squirm.
You in court. Explain the computer login issue. Just explain the computer login issue. You were not able to log into your lawsuit contends that you were not able to log into the system. What did you think after you were unable to log into the system?
Let's have a survey. How many of you people believe that's true?
He's so bad at this. He's done this and other shit too. He's just textbook, not really going to give an answer. So he goes, "Oh, I'm going to answer it," and then he goes, "What do you guys believe this is true?" All right, it literally is just a bunch of different versions of this. I'm squirming, trying different tactics. Let's keep going.
Hang on.
Did you communicate?
You asked the question. Let me answer it.
Now. He goes, "You asked me a question, let me answer it." That's obviously not answering the fucking question. So to be fair to this reporter, let's go on.
No. Did you communicate with anyone that you thought you were fired after you were unable to log into?
Very pointed, specific questions.
The problem with you and your report, don't cut me off. You asked the question.
Straightforward question.
The problem with you and your baseless reporting is that is an absolute lie. It was never said.
Keep in mind, he's not denying. He's saying the problem with you and your reporting is that's an absolute lie. For one, he didn't even make a claim. He asked him a question. He's clarifying a question. Hey, these are claims made by Atlantic. Can you? And he goes, the problem with you and your. Let's keep going.
It never happened. And I will serve in this administration.
He's also saying it never happened. What is it? What do you mean it never happened? This could the way he's wording here, he could literally mean oh, I didn't get fired. It's the way he's talking about it. It leaves it vague as to what he is specifically referencing. So he's not even directly making a denial through all this. Let's keep going.
As long as the president and the attorney general want me to do so. And every time you guys report false lies, every time you guys raise baseless questions, when we are here to talk about the Southern Poverty Law Center's $3 million decade-long scheme to fraudulently fleece Americans, you are off topic.
Straightforward question. Did you talk to anybody about whether you thought
The
you were
simple
fired?
answer to your question is you are lying, and every time you do so, I've answered your question.
It's not the simple answer to your question. You're lying. The question is, did you do this? That doesn't even make. It makes no coherent sense.
It's simply as follows. I was never locked out of my systems. Anybody who says it. Anyone that says the opposite is lying. Thank you.
Man, stop. You're being extraordinarily rude. And I know maybe that's part of your profession, but please just stop. If you ask a question.
I don't really feel like that was rude to be at all, to be honest. I wish more people would do that shit because I get sick and tired of hearing of these non-answer and like he gave the most explicitly pointed question one could give. It wasn't even there was nothing ambiguous about it. So I would like to see more of this, to be honest. So saying this is like an uncouth way for no, he's not giving an answer. He's very clearly not giving an answer, and the idea you should let them off the hook for not giving an answer is ridiculous. No, you should make them feel ridiculous as well. He should there. That last little bit that was wild.
Anyone that says the opposite is lying. Thank you.
Because all right, whatever. I'm not gonna get hung up on this. Whatever. Let's move on. Let's get into actually what we're here to talk about. Here's Nick's order. This is breaking. Acting AG Blanche and FBI Director Patel announced a grand jury has indicted leftist NGO SPLC Southern Poverty Law Center on 11 counts. So let's watch this clip. Let's see what Todd Blanche has to say.
Good afternoon. Today, a few minutes ago, in the Middle District of Alabama, a grand jury returned an 11-count indictment charging the Southern Poverty Law Center with 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. According to the charges in the indictment, the SPLC is a nonprofit entity that purports to fight white supremacy and racial hatred by reporting on extremist groups and conducting research to inform law enforcement groups with the goal of dismantling these groups. As the indictment describes, the SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred. The indictment describes this conduct in detail, but one troubling example is that the SPLC was paying a member of the leadership group that planned the Unite the Right protests in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017 that resulted in the death of 1 person and injured dozens more. This particular person being paid by the SPLC allegedly received approximately $270,000 over the course of 8 years. In total, according to the indictment, between 2014 and 2023, SPLC paid at least $3 million to 8 individuals at least. These individuals were affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan, United Klans of America, National Socialist Movement, Aryan Nations affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club, the Nationalist Socialist Party of America, Nazis, and the American Front. Now, as the indictment lays out, after SPLC paid members of these extremist groups, it created work product that reported on these activities that the members participated in or contributed to. And to that end, it was doing the exact opposite of what it's told its donors it was doing.
All right. A lot. I guess a lot to unpack there. So he's saying that I guess he just came a certain court. Well, let's see what Kash Patel has to say. Let's look at. He made a statement on this. He says Todd Blanche are announcing 11-count indictment against the Southern Poverty Law Center. Charges include wire fraud, false statements to a federally insured bank, and conspiracy to commit concealment money laundering. The SPLC allegedly engaged in a massive fraud operation to deceive their donors, enrich themselves, and hide their deceptive operations from the public. They lied to their donors, vowing to dismantle violent extremist groups, and actually turned around and paid the lenders of these very extremist groups, even utilizing the funds to have these groups facilitate the commission of state and federal crimes. This is illegal, and this is an ongoing investigation against all individuals involved. Now, let's be real. This is kind of what the FBI has been doing. It's funny they're talking about Unite the Right. This is, I mean, you guys, if you've been following the show long enough, I was struggling to think of some of the people I interview. I've interviewed Kirk Lyons, which that'll be relevant in a while. But I've also interviewed David Gleddy, although I guess that's not OKC related. But that's somebody interviewed. I guess it's sort of related to right-wing infiltration. And he's someone who openly admitted, and I believe this is in court documents, so it's like legit. Me and Ken interviewed him a while back. You can go look that up, David Gleddy. But he was an informant. He called himself an operative for the feds. To him, informants were people who they got busted for a crime or something. He just did it for love of the game, essentially. But yeah, he organized at least one protest, I believe. I forget all the specifics, and he did a bunch of other stuff for the feds. Kind of, sort of what the feds here are directly accusing the SPLC of doing. But it sounds to me, from my understanding, especially as we're going to get a little bit into some of the OKC stuff in a bit, it kind of seems that the SPLC is, if anything, a front for the feds, or vice versa. The feds are a front for maybe not the SPLC specifically, but that the impetus of what the SPLC is, kind of the more vaguer, the more larger drive of it. Because it's like, what is the SPLC trying to do? There's other organizations that are trying to do similar things the SPLC is doing. So if you're just focused on one singular organization like the SPLC, you might get a little mixed up here. Like, oh, look, the FBI is fighting the SPLC. You're like, well, maybe the SPLC has exceeded its usefulness, and they're shedding off that face, and for some cheap right-wing points for their audience. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe this is some legit stuff. I mean, either way, there's definitely legit things to look into here. Moving on. Here's another clip from Todd Blanche. Let's hear him talking a little bit more into the specifics in response to some journalist here.
I just want to make sure I understand. You're alleging that the Southern Poverty Law Center was paying the leaders of KKK and other groups to continue their operations? Is that?
I'm not alleging it. The grand jury returned an indictment that says that. And so what the investigation found, according to the indictment that was returned today, is that they were paying. So the Southern Poverty Law Center is raising money, asking folks to give them money to dismantle racism. And over a very long period of time, they were using some of the money they raised from donors to pay to, they called them field, basically to informants, for information, for access, to just pay them for certain, to do certain things. And so, yes, that's exactly what the indictment charges.
Okay, you get a little more in the specifics there. Just straight up saying they're paying leaders of these groups, which once again, that's what the feds were probably doing too. Actually, not even probably, we know they were doing this. Moving on, here's King Pilled. I just wanted to see his take. He says, difficult to overstate how legally significant this is. A federal grand jury indictment carries serious legal weight on its own, but it also sets a landmark precedent by exposing how the SPLC fraudulently inflated the vast white supremacist terrorist threat. It's far more than some journalistic expose. Consider how much established policy was built upon SPLC data, hate crime laws, DEI mandates, intelligence reports, law enforcement training, federal civil rights policy, media narratives, other corporate policies, civil lawsuits, court decisions, Department of Education programs, school curricula, and on and on and on and on. This is massive. Now, I'd say probably this is the good way to look at this would be maybe like a limited hangout, because and I think a limited hangout, who wins in a limited hangout? We do. That means whoever the powers that be are having to cede up some ground into some way, whether it's just narrative or whatever. And I think this is a ceding of the ground. I do think this is big. It could be a big deal. I mean, I guess this could be a nothing burger somehow, but I think it's kind of big to some degree. But the problem is, unfortunately, a lot of people will just see this as the end of it, and they go, oh, as opposed to establishing the link between, oh, well, the feds do this shit as well. Also, look at incentives. I mean, the SPLC incentives are kind of aligned with the establishment, generally speaking. So, I don't know. Seeing the FBI buck them in this one specific situation, I don't know. What does it really mean? It feels like looking for cheap points from your base while also ceding some of the ground, of how things are done. Moving on, let's look a little bit into, kind of get into the details here. Here's Patrick Casey. He said, I just read the indictment, which provides more information on SPLC's informants. It says, a truly fascinating, not to mention rare, glimpse behind the curtain. It says, the SPLC spent more than $3 million in donor funds on informants from 2014 to 2023. It says, the crux of the DOJ's case is what the SPLC did so duplicitously in violation of the law. Now, I got to say, though, like, while obviously, I mean, this is $3 million over 7 years. So if you compare this to the way the feds go about with their informants, like, I mean, I've seen it. I used to have remembered certain stats on certain informants. I wish I could remember them now. There was like one guy, I swear, got somewhere in the realm of like almost $500,000 over a certain period of time. Or, anyways, we're talking, and that's just one informant. So, I mean, $3 million for the SPLC over actually 9 year. I think it did some dumb math there to say, but over a 9 year period, almost a decade. That's really not that crazy, in my opinion, especially when you're comparing it to the feds that do exactly this sort of thing as well. But hey, whatever. I guess it's something. This is the crux of DOJ's case, is the SPLC did so duplicitously in violation of the law. So here's a little excerpt from I guess the indictment. It says between at least 2014 and 2013, SPLC paid their Fs in a clandestine manner. Doing so, it hid the fact, I think the Fs is what they're called, the informants or something, that while the SPLC received donation money under the auspices that the funds would be used to dismantle violent extremist groups, this donation money was instead being used in part by the SPLC to pay leaders and others within these same violent extremist groups. That money was then used for the benefit of the individuals as well as the violent extremist groups. Now, to be real, I'm of the opinion that there's probably a pretty strong likelihood that in some way, shape, or form, whether subvertly or overtly, the SPLC was probably strongly tied into PatCon. So, for those who paid attention to PatCon, I think it was probably a fixture of PatCon. So it's kind of, I guess, exactly what I'm driving at here. So yeah, I do agree that they're doing all of this stuff, but it's kind of missing the larger context. Between 2014 and 2023, the SPLC secretly funneled more than $3 million in SPLC funds to Fs who were associated with various violent extremist groups. Continuing on, since the first example is an individual who's involved in the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. Between 2015 and 2023, the SPLC paid him more than $270,000, which, I don't know, for almost a decade for an informant. That's not that crazy from things I've seen. I think is a relative nobody, given his unremarkable description. We'll see, he says F-37, which keep in mind 37 implies, 36 other prior ones at least, was a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the 2017 Unite the Right event in Charlottesville, Virginia, and attended the event at the direction of the SPLC. F-37 made racist postings under the supervision of the SPLC and helped coordinate transportation to the event for several attendees. Between 2015 and 2023, the SPLC secretly paid F-37 more than $270,000. It says, this one's wild. The SPLC paid a member of the National Alliance over $1 million in less than a decade. Now, that's wild. At one point, informants entered the headquarters. They're saying it's like $3 million altogether, and they already got one guy at $1 million and then wanted a quarter. So it's like, now it's kind of really sounding like, what are we talking, a handful of informants? Anyways, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like it, period. At one point, the informant entered the headquarters of presumably a different organization and stole 25 boxes of their documents, which he delivered to the SPLC. He later returned them. A different informant was paid $6,000 to take responsibility for the theft. Okay. One informant was, at one point, the Imperial Wizard of the United Clans of America. Says, never heard of them, but it's noteworthy that SPLC focused on the more comically extreme / retarded groups. Low-hanging fruit, I guess, which... moving on. Another informant was the former chairman of the National Alliance. He received $140,000 over 7 years. Seems like a big deal to have the leader of one of the country's national socialist organizations on the SPLC's payroll. The SPLC paid the national president of American Front, who was a convicted felon after participating in a cross-burning, $19,000 from 2016 to 2019. So, okay, the feds paid someone for cross-burning, essentially $20K. That's cool. Fascinating how many of these groups were compromised at the top. Another informant was married to an exalted cyclops of the KKK. This informant's connection to the SPLC was outed during litigation pertaining to her application to take part in the Adopt a Highway program. This guy, Patrick, says, I left out a couple of boring informants. This is enough to get the gist of it, but it's worth noting the indictment states that the informants provided are but a sample of the SPLC's roster. I, for one, hope to learn the full extent of the SPLC's dealings, to funnel its donors' money to avowed neo-Nazi and Klan members. More than a little funny if you think about it. The SPLC allegedly employed a network of fictitious entities with names like Northwest Technologies and Tech Writers Groups. None of these entities were incorporated. I mean, this is totally Fed behavior. The DOJ alleges that the SPLC moved money around between those fictitious entities to conceal the true nature of the funds. At one point, a bank the SPLC was using closed some of the entities' accounts following an internal investigation. And then he's got the link for the full indictment here. And I guess we're up to 43. Remember I said like there was that F-37 that implies 36 other ones? Well, there's one of these ones in here says an F-43. So I guess around 43-ish, or at least. So that's the implication you would think, considering the numbering system here. So just throwing that out there. Obviously, that's probably a drop in the bucket compared to the informant program of the FBI and also the CIA. And theirs is probably way more fucked up. And let's be real, this is probably literally just a node of those same exact networks, as I was kind of driving at before. But hey, worthwhile. Like I said, I'll retweet the. Oh, I can't. Why can't I retweet? This guy me blocked? Oh wait, watch. Is this guy watch? Let me see. Yeah, he has me blocked. I was gonna retweet that, but I guess it's some dude who has me blocked. That's great. Sorry about that. I was gonna retweet that so you guys could see the indictment, but this guy has me blocked for some reason. Probably because I'm willing to read posts like this from Dan Bilzerian. Let's see his take on this, and I don't think he's actually quite entirely off here. I think there's something to this. He says right now the SPLC is trending because they've been caught funding anti-Semitic groups, just like Israel funds Islamic terror cells. Hey, remember what I was literally just talking about in our foreign policy coverage about how we currently have Hamas groups that are at battle with Israeli-backed militias? They've openly stated they're doing that too. So they are literally creating gangs and arming them to fight Hamas. So there you go. The SPLC is a Jewish social engineering think tank created and ran by these 4 Jews, staffed by hundreds more to maintain Jewish victim status while secretly subverting and destroying America. We got Joseph Levin Jr., the co-founder, in 1971, the board emeritus, I don't know how you pronounce that. J. Richard Cohen, former president and CEO. Michael Lieberman, senior policy counsel, hate and extremism. Alan Milowicki, senior research analyst, and Josh Beckenstein, board of directors member. I'm a little confused because he said 4 Jews and then listed off 5, so I don't know. Maybe that's but either way, whatever. I think it's worth. I think he's onto something a little bit here, though. I guess we're gonna get into the OKC. Keep in mind, I've kind of needled around this concept before when we've talked Oklahoma City bombing. One of the big things is they were focusing on like infiltrating. I mean, we got Elohim City that comes in the mix. You talk about Oklahoma City bombing, the Aryan Republic Army, like Aryan. Come on, it's like, let's be real. This is a Nazi groups of vaguely, kind of Nazi groups. This is, and keep in mind, for those who are aware of the individual named Andreas Strassmeyer, dude who glows like the sun. Came over from Germany, was living in Elohim City. Carol Howe reportedly said that she went with him multiple times to scout out buildings. Murrah Federal Building being one of them they scouted out, which ended up being blown up. He was talking about doing violence, according to her. So there's a lot more to go into about this guy, about how he glows like the sun. But his path was he was in Germany. He got out of the military. I think I'm trying to remember his path because it's wild. I know he links up with one glowy, and then that glowy, essentially, literally, admittedly helped. Why can't I think of his name? It's really bugging me. I can't think of his name right now. But it's really going to bug me right now that I can't think of not Hall, whatever. It's gonna later. I'm going to think of it and go, I'm so fucking stupid. I need to dig back into my OKC stuff. But anyways. What was I saying? Andreas Strassmeyer. Oh yeah, Andreas Strassmeyer. He kind of came over through his whole reasoning for wanting to be in the States and stuff is having a being really tied into the Civil War reenactment, kind of being a history buff. And so there's actually like a weird, when I had Kirk Lyons on the show, we talked a lot about this, and I thought that was particularly kind of interesting. Also, especially when you keep in mind that Germany was well known for, I think they had some sort of like pilot, almost like a program for reenactors over there. There was weirdly like a group of people that are into Civil War reenactment in that area, but it was also that same time was when they were doing big time denazification over in Germany. I don't know. And if you know the background of Strassmeyer, dude glows. I mean, it's really bugging me. I can't think of the first guy he stayed with, and then he stayed with Holloway after that. It's really bugging me. Whatever. I'll come back to that later. But anyways, kind of what I'm driving. There is something to this idea of like creating this apparition to slap down. If you are trying to kind of what they're accusing the SPLC of doing is kind of what I think the feds were also doing in cahoots with the SPLC around 95. And there is some angle to this. I mean, even if it isn't necessarily explicitly Israel or a Jewish, plot or whatever, that was the angle of attack. We build up a right-wing terror group, and we build them up as being, super anti-Semitic and yada yada. And then, anyways, moving on. Let's get a little bit into this stuff. Here's Ken says SPLC had informants embedded in Elohim City, where the OKC bombing is suspected to have been planned by McVeigh and others who were never charged. Here's a picture. Here's a excerpt, I believe, from what the what can I think of the fucking the memo? What do we call? I'm having such a brain fart today. It just came upon me. I'm dropping. I say this all the time. The FBI memo. Says information has also been received through the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC, that one redacted, aka redacted telephone call from Timothy McVeigh on or about 4/17/1995, which is 2 days prior to the Oklahoma City bombing attack, when redacted, per a source of the SPLC, was in the white supremacist compound at Redacted, Oklahoma. Redacted allegedly had a lengthy relationship with Timothy McVeigh, one of two indicted OK bomb defendants. So, yeah. It's really bugging. Why can't I think of it? What is it called? What do we call the memos, the reports? FBI 302. That's what I was trying to say. Although I think this one's a memo, not 302. But I don't know. Anyways, moving on. Here's more from Ken. Here is an excerpt from J.D. Cash talking about how he thinks Kirk Lyons and it could have been an SPLC informant. Now, it kind of makes me want to go back and watch my Kirk Lyons interview. I think I'm the most recent person to have interviewed Kirk Lyons, by the way. I think before that, was it The Farm, I think was the podcast? I feel bad if I'm getting that wrong. There was another podcast where I believe Wendy Painting, they did a much better job than I did, so I do want to give them credit. But they had, shortly before that, they had him on. But I had him on too. I can't remember if Ken co-hosted that one. And I really do not remember if we talk specifically on this. I'll have to go back and watch that sometime soon, but I would recommend people go back and watch that, especially if you're an OKC nerd, and with some of this new revelations, it almost might be worthwhile to look back and see some of the Kirk Lyons interviews and be like, did he say something about that? We talk a lot about like Holloway and stuff, so probably worthwhile if you haven't checked it out already, or even just a re-listen if you're trying to listen in for specific information that maybe just we didn't realize was key at the time. But here's on the Scott Horton Show, J.D. Cash from a while back. Do we have a year on this? I thought maybe there'd be a year. 2007. So this was back in 2007. J.D. Cash talking about just this SPLC informants.
He was still working for the German army at the time that he was in.
Absolutely. Then you have this guy that we've just written about, who I think is working for Morris Dees, and I think that his boss, Kirk Lyons, is also working for Morris Dees, and not happily either. I'm sure these guys have been wrapped across the balls by the IRS and the FBI, and they were facing a jail term. That's the only reason that they ever would have agreed.
Petruski. That was the name I couldn't think of earlier. I don't know. I kept wanting to say Guthrie. Sorry, I know this is bad presenting. I should have waited, but I I had to say it because I thought of Petruski. Vincent Petruski. That was the first fucking blowy that Strassmeyer met up with. Lived at his place for a little while. Petruski helped him get settled in the States. Helped him apply for some federal jobs. But yeah, because Petruski was, I believe, claimed to be former Phoenix guy. I might be wrong on that one. I'm a little hazy on that, but I couldn't think of his name. Anyways, back to it.
Be informants in this capacity. So
Kirk Lyons, the famous neo-Nazi lawyer, is working for the...
Yeah, wouldn't that be perfect to have him writing out his own clients?
Oh, I love it.
Now, wouldn't it be perfect for him to purposely screw up the Branch Davidian case? Remember, he was one of the attorneys.
Oh.
Is this not the perfect deal? You know? I mean, this is an ingenious deal. Of course, it's just a real shame that all these people got killed. They weren't even smart enough to figure it out, to do it right. Or they double-crossed their handlers and saw to it the building got bombed. I don't know. That's for them to explain someday to a grand jury and during a trial.
Okay, so that was J.D. Cash. Some of the possibility that Kirk Lyons and his associate were SPLC informants. Hawley was the guy who helped Strassmeyer leave the United States during the Oklahoma City bombing investigation. He was also involved in Iran-Contra and now works for NASA. So a lot to that. Lyons denies working for the SPLC. Ken says he hasn't found any evidence that he has. And there's the whole J.D. Cash interview that he's sharing right here. So I'll give that a retweet if you guys want to check that out. Like I said, I don't know if someone wants to go check out that old Lyons interview. Maybe, I'm not sure if we brought up any SPLC stuff. We talked about a lot in that episode. Maybe it might be worthwhile to get back on, but I don't know. Maybe not. Moving on. Here is a piece kind of digging more into this. Someone shared an old piece from J.D. Cash about informants at Elohim City before the Oklahoma City bombing. So this is from the Curtin Daily Gazette. This is written back in 2003. It said the Morris D's had an informant at Elohim City before OKC bombing. The Curtin Daily Gazette has obtained an unclassified copy of a memorandum marked from the director of the FBI containing several new facts that would impact the upcoming state murder of Terry Nichols, scheduled to begin March 1st in McAllister. The electronic message was sent to the Oklahoma bombing investigation task force and a select group of FBI offices around the nation some 8 months after the 95 federal building in Oklahoma City left 168 dead. The potentially explosive contents of the teletype, among other things, exposes an informant operation being conducted by nationally known civil rights lawyer Morris Dees through his organization, the SPLC. Exposed for the first time, the FBI acknowledges the SPLC was engaged in an undercover role where they monitored subjects for the FBI believed to be linked to executed bomber Timothy McVeigh, the white supremacist compound at Elohim City, and the mysterious German national Andreas Karl Strassmeyer. Dated January 4th, 1996, the 4-page cable was drafted and issued under the authority of FBI Director Louis Freeh and is heavily redacted. Despite these redactions, the document clearly describes individuals the FBI believed were associated with the OK Bomb and Bomb Rob cases, which, by the way, Bomb Rob is the ARA case, which is the people that typically think were kind of some of his other little ground helpers or the little helpers in the bombing. Is kind of the larger group that McVeigh was probably a part of. There's 2 high-profile domestic terrorism cases the FBI was investigating as possibly connected. Many of the details in this potentially explosive document have never been made public before. The OK Bomb case focused several hundred FBI agents on the truck bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City on April 19th, 1995. So that's just giving you a little more detail of that memo we actually read before, but this is the piece from J.D. Cash way back when. But I find it interesting. This SPLC information's coming out, especially if you are kind of a student of the right-wing infiltration over time. It just kind of, I don't know, this is a weird one. I don't really know what to make of it. It almost feels like maybe the SPLC has exceeded its usefulness for the establishment. I don't know. And so this is just the establishment, trying to get some red meat out to the base. Be like, oh, look at this left-wing organization, this woke nonsense. Look at the shit they're doing. Can you believe it? They are infiltrating extremist groups and elevating the threat, and then using it to justify their funds. Isn't that crazy? Can you believe they're fucking doing that? Can you believe they might actually be responsible for terror? Can you believe? No way, right? But who would have thought? Who would ever do such a thing? The FBI says. All right, guys, let's get into the chat. And then we'll get into some apocalypse talk, get a little more serious, and then we'll get out of here after that one. Good morning, Scott. Good morning. Says Cash hangs the Poop Deck Bar and Grill. Yeah. Tony asked me if your parents know you're gay. Yes or no? Answer, Mr. Cash. Does anyone think he's telling the truth here? Can you imagine if you squirreled out of answering "Are you gay?" like that? Good morning, aggressively agreeing. Says you're telling me the khakis were feds this entire time. Yeah. Good morning, Guy Vermectin. Says I'd have a beer with Cash App. Well, you're silly. Kirk Lyon says WC Cola. I do gotta say, my interview with Kirk, he could. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's someone I kind of side-eye. I'm like, what are you? What's going on? What is your role in all this shit? Like, I don't know if you're being entirely truthful. I kind of don't think you are. But he's a hoot. I'll give him that. He's enjoyable to talk to. If anyone remembers that interview, it's like a genuinely enjoyable guy. You almost have to like check yourself. Like, whoa. So you don't end up falling. But who knows? Maybe he's telling the truth entirely, but just what I know about all that different stuff, you're like, I don't know. All right, let's get into some apocalypse talk. Kind of what led this segment off for me is I wanted to cover, apparently Trump did a Bible reading recently, and I thought it was particularly ominous, so that kind of gave me the idea. Been thinking a lot about like end times eschatology stuff recently. A little bit freaky. A lot of the powers that be seem to want to make this stuff happen. And I don't know, this reading from 2 Chronicles 7:11-22 that was read by Trump doesn't really ease me much on that one. So let's go ahead and play it real quick, and then we'll talk about it. It's a couple minutes long. Give it to you. Read a lot, but just for some reason, this is a passage that Trump chose to pick for his America Reads the Bible thingamajig or whatever they're doing. So let's watch this.
Thus Solomon finished the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all that came into Solomon's heart to make in the house of the Lord, and in his own house he prosperously effected. And the Lord appeared to Solomon by night and said to him, I have heard your prayer and have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up heaven, that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes shall be open and my ears attent to the prayer that is made in this place. For now I have chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. And as for you, if you will walk before me, as David your father walked, and do according to all that I have commanded you, and shall observe my statutes and my judgments, then will I establish the throne of my kingdom according to as I have covenanted with David your father, saying there shall not fail you as a man to be ruler in Israel. But if you turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I pluck them up from the roots out of my land which I have given them, and this house which I have sanctified for my name will I cast out of my sight, and will make it to be a proverb and a byword among nations. And this house which is high shall be an astonishment to every one that passes by it, so that he shall say, why has the Lord done thus to this land and to this house? And it shall be answered, because they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshiped them and served them. Therefore has he brought all this evil upon them.
Okay, well, that was a whole lot. Let's check in over on Owen Schroyer. He's got over on his page, he's got the text laid out. So let's evaluate this for a little bit. It says, so starting off, verse 11, thus Solomon finished the house of the Lord in the king's house, and all that came into Solomon's heart to make in the house of the Lord, in his own house, he prosperously effected. So he finished the house of the Lord. I believe, I'm by no means a biblical scholar, but considering they're talking Solomon, the house of the Lord, it sounds a little bit like temple talk, a little bit, little concerning. I'm assuming this is Solomon finishing the temple. As the Lord appeared to Solomon by night, said to him, I have heard thy prayer, and have chosen this place myself for a house of sacrifice. So temple sounds like to me. 13, if I shut up heaven, there be no rain. If I command the locust to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will hear their land. So, okay. The way I interpret that, it sounds like God saying, even if I'm going to do all this fucked up shit, then you guys should still be calling to my name, humbling yourselves, praying before me, yada, yada. And then once you do that, then the good stuff, I guess. Okay, whatever. This sort of stuff makes me a little bit more amenable to the idea of the agnostic conception or the Marcionite conception of God, Old Testament being the baddie, but whatever. It is also worthwhile mentioning this is an Old Testament reading. Now mine eyes shall be open and mine ears attend unto the prayer that is made in this place. For now I have chosen and sanctified this house, by my name may be there forever, and mine eyes and mine heart shall be there perpetually. One thing I did want to say, if my people shall humble themselves, yada, 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 even if I command the locust of our land, blah, blah. That I will say it does come off a little bit ominous, Trump reading this, because it is like from the perspective of Solomon. So you have Trump reading it as if almost like he's Solomon. Bear in mind, this is someone who just recently put up that weird-ass Jesus True Social thing that a lot of people are saying that's like him equating himself to Jesus or something. And then now here he is equating himself seemingly to Solomon. So you could interpret this as him saying to them, like, even if that's really shitty, if you just trust the plan, then we will forgive your sin and heal the land. Maybe that's one way to read it. I think it's more temple stuff than anything. All right, let's scroll through here. Yada, yada, yada. If you turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, what I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, which another ominous reading. If you're thinking this is Trump reading it like as if it's himself. Then will I pluck them up by the roots out of my land, which I have given them, and this house, which I have sanctified for my name, will I cast out of my sight, and will I make it a proverb and a byword amongst the nations. And this house, which is high, shall be an astonishment to everyone that passeth by it, so that he shall say, why hath the Lord done this unto this land and unto this house? And it shall be answered, because they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshipped them, and served them. Therefore hath he brought all this evil upon them. Now, I guess gotta say it's a bizarre thing for Trump to read, period. It's not really like from my understanding, a prominent passage in the Bible. It does seem to be talking about temple talk here, and then also kind of the idea of humbling oneself before the Lord. That way, perhaps you can get, I guess maybe not necessarily that way, but, and then you will, things will be good, kind of. And if things are bad, that's because you forsook your Lord God. So, I mean, I don't know. Considering Trump's reading it, that can be read with an ominous stuff. But even the temple talk, it generally is concerning. So let's see this too a little bit in an apocalypse of economic proportions. Apparently, Trump recently summoned bank leaders over terrifying new threat to global financial systems from the Daily Mail. Let's actually dig a little bit into this one, see what they're talking about. This was on April 10th, so this was a couple weeks ago, a little less than 2 weeks ago. I thought this was worthwhile checking in on. Trump administration has summoned America's most powerful bank chiefs to an urgent closed-door meeting over an AI model its makers warn could bring down a blue-chip company or breach national defense firewalls. Oh no! Are we now getting concerned about the AI demon? Is that what's going on here? Sounds like the new ghost thing to be scared of, just like COVID before. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell convened the session at Treasury headquarters in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday to address Mythos, a new model from AI giant Anthropic. Anthropic had announced Mythos the same day, revealing the model surprised coders by hacking into the company's own networks during internal testing. Oh, we're getting an AI demon, it sounds like. The meeting was called at short notice for banks classified as systematically important, whose stability is considered vital to the global financial system, Bloomberg reported. Among the bosses summoned were Citigroup's Jane Fraser, Morgan Stanley's Ted Pick, Bank of America's Brian Moynihan, Wells Fargo's Charlie Scharf, and Goldman Sachs' David Solomon. Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan was unable to attend. Only around 40 carefully vetted firms have been granted access to Mythos, which arrives off the back of Anthropic's Claude code. The tool that sent Silicon Valley into a frenzy with its ability to generate entire programs from a single line of text. The Pentagon is already a customer, having deployed Anthropic's earlier models in the operation to seize Nicolas Maduro and during the Iran conflict. Anthropic said it held discussions with U.S. officials ahead of the release about Mythos and its offensive and defensive cyber capabilities. Treasury has been contacted for comment. The Fed declined to comment. Anthropic is separately locked in a legal battle with the Trump administration after a federal appeals court this week rejected its bid to pause the Pentagon's designation of the company as a supply chain risk. The fallout stems from Anthropic's refusal to let the Pentagon strip safety limits from its models, particularly around autonomous weapons and domestic surveillance. The AI giant released a chilling analysis of Mythos this week as it admitted the new model could easily hack into hospitals, electrical grids, power plants, and other pieces of critical infrastructure. During testing, Anthropic said that Mythos found thousands of high-severity vulnerabilities, including some in every major operating system and web browser. Some of these security weaknesses had gone unnoticed by human security researchers and hackers for decades, surviving millions of automated reviews. These included attacks that allowed Mythos to crash computers just by connecting to them, seize control machines, and hide its presence from defenders. In a blog post detailing the dangerous new model, Anthropic says AI models have reached a level of coding capability where they can surpass all but the most skilled humans at finding and exploiting software vulnerabilities. The company adds the fallout for economies, public safety, and national security could be severe. Anthropic describes the model as a leap in these cyber skills compared to previous versions of Claude. Mythos has the ability to find, exploit, and chain together individual vulnerabilities into sophisticated attacks, all without the help of a human. In one case, Claude Mythos found a 27-year-old weakness in a piece of software called OpenBSD, which has a reputation for security and stability. The weakness, which no human had found before, allowed an attacker to remotely crash computers just by connecting to them. Additionally, Claude autonomously chained together several weaknesses in the Linux kernel, the software that runs most of the world's servers. All right, we're going to end it at that, but yeah, looks like they are ushering in the AI demon, which is, I don't know if we've really talked about this in the show. This is like this concept that's kind of like the next COVID, which whether it's real or whether it's not, it's almost kind of beside the point. You kind of can't prove it's real. It's oh no! The banking system and yada yada wherever just completely went down. Oh, the AI demon. It gives you something, and like I don't know, maybe you have blackouts in certain areas as a result. I mean, this is conspiracy heaven. You can do all sorts of shit with an AI demon. And moving on, as on the same exact day, we have Trump tweeting out "World's most powerful reset." President Donald J. Trump. So. A little concerning. And then about a week later, we got Elon Musk putting out calls for universal high income. I guess that'll make it a whole lot better instead of universal basic income. So we're getting high income, not just basic. Sign me up. Via checks issued by the federal government is the best way to deal with unemployment caused by AI. This is what Elon says. AI/robotics will produce goods and services far in excess of the increase in the money supply, so there will not be inflation. So we have Elon throwing out UBI as an idea. And it's a little concerning, And around this time, too, we also have Palantir has published its manifesto recently, so I think it'd be worthwhile for us to take a look into it. We're considering, I don't know, this guy, Palantir guy, the old Teal, he's been talking about the Antichrist and the apocalypse for a while now. So we're talking about AI demons. I don't know. I think I see the dots. I connect them. Just saying. Here's Christopher Botry. He says Palantir has published its manifesto. He says to read it not just for what it says about tech, but for what it says about politics, about Karp's and Teal's ideology, about war, about you. When a private company sets itself the mission of defining who must be surveilled, targeted, predicted, neutralized, and simultaneously publishes a text explaining why, contesting that would be civilizational weakness, we're no longer in corporate strategy. We're in the privatization of sovereignty, the right to decide on the enemy, which has always been the founding political gesture of states, is being bought up by a company listed on NASDAQ. Although I know it sounds like they're making this like an anti-capitalism thing, but keep in mind, these motherfuckers were created by the CIA. They are the CIA. This manifesto rests on a single sleight of hand, repeated in 20 different forms, making inevitable out of what is actually a choice. AI weapons, they'll be built anyways, so it may as well be us. Yeah, they're gonna make an AI demon. It may as well be us. Algorithmic surveillance, geopolitical reality demands it. Says the rearmament of the West, the hierarchy of cultures, the disqualification of pluralism as dangerous naivete, simple lucidity in this face of the world as it is. He says, this is the ideology at its finest, not forbidding the question, but rendering it indecent. What Palantir calls realism is in fact a radically philosophical decision. Conflict is the world's permanent truth. Democratic deliberation is a fragility that the adversary will exploit. And a private technological elite is better placed than a people to draw the consequences of that truth. You know what? The funny thing is I actually do believe that a private technological elite is better placed than a people to draw the consequences of the truth. I just do not think this is a private technological elite. This is not a private technological elite. This is a public money financier, sort of unimpressive, most people inherited this money and just know how to play the relationship game. I don't know what we call that, but private technological elite seems a far cry from whatever the fuck that is. I also agree that democratic deliberation is a fragility the adversary will exploit. So yeah, democracy is the god that fails. But yeah, anyways, the danger is that they're mad. The danger is that they're rich, coherent, and already inside the states. Palantir isn't knocking on government's doors to sell a tool. It arrives as a complete cosmology. Here's how the world works. Here are your enemies. Here's why you can't afford debate. And here's our contract. It says Palantir is the enemy of people and of democracy. Democracy is gay. What they're building is a technocratic power that no one has elected and no one will be able to overthrow. So let's check in this. This is Palantir, which see how based I am. I totally forgot I even blocked these guys. I blocked them here. I blocked Palantir a long time ago. So this is Palantir. It says, because we get asked a lot, the Technological Republic in brief, which I believe this is like something Alex Karp wrote somewhere in like one of his books or something is what I gather. So here it is. So it's 1, Silicon Valley owes a moral debt to the country that made its rise possible. The engineering elite of Silicon Valley has an affirmative obligation to participate in the defense of the nation. Okay, that's not so bad. I mean, they are government funded to the nth degree, it seems. 2, we must rebel against the tyranny of the apps. It says, is the iPhone our greatest creative, if not crowning achievement as a civilization? The object has changed our lives, but may also now be limiting and constraining our sense of the possible. I mean, whatever. That's 3 free email is not enough. The decadence of a culture or civilization, and indeed its ruling class, will be forgiven only if that culture is capable of delivering economic growth and security for the public. I don't even know what that one means, really. I don't know what they're getting at there. 4, the limits of soft power of soaring rhetoric alone have been exposed. It says the ability of free and democratic societies to prevail requires something more than moral appeal. It requires hard power, and hard power in this country will be built on software. Now that's a little ominous. Okay. 5, the question is not whether AI weapons will be built, is who will build them and for what purpose. This is our adversaries will not pause to indulge in theatrical debates about the merits of developing technologies with critical military and national security applications. They will proceed. Okay. 6, national service should be a universal duty. Hey, how about you suck my dick? We should, as a society, seriously consider moving away from an all-volunteer force and only fight the next war if everyone shares in the risks and the costs. Only problem is that's not how that actually works in practice. And also you are, I don't know. I don't really like the idea of Palantir having any opinion on that whatsoever, considering as I don't see them as a private entity. I see this as the government saying you should all be our little goy slaves. 7, if a U.S. Marine asks for a better rifle, we should build it. And the same goes for software. Little weird. See how this doesn't come off as all that private? We should, as a country, be capable of continuing a debate about the appropriateness of military action abroad while remaining unflinching in our commitment to those we have asked to step into harm's way. 8, public servants need not be our priests. Okay. Any business that compensated its employees in the way the federal government compensates public servants would struggle to survive. Okay. Well, that they caught me. they did a whole 180 there. I read that public servants need not be our priests, and I implied that meant like, oh, they shouldn't be considered these like things that lord above us, and they know better than us, and yada. What he was meaning was the way they're compensated. Yeah, go fuck yourself. The federal government is doing just fucking fine with compensation. So, anyone who's worked in the government can tell you that for a fact. I know everyone whines and cries, we don't get paid. Yeah, of course you're going to do that because you have every incentive to complain to the government to make more money, considering that now has entered in the democratic realm. Like if mechanics in the world go, we should get more money, and they just complain about it and they didn't actually raise their prices, because in the real world, in a real economy, we have this thing called demand, and that's what prices are based off of. When you're a public servant, you don't have that. So you're completely the whole profit incentive, that the whole market, you're broken away from that. So you are just an aberration when it comes to the economic world. So, anyways, that's what an insane way. I don't know, what a ridiculous way to frame that. Public servants need not be our priests. Okay, they should get paid far less. In fact, they shouldn't get paid at all. We should we should show far more grace towards those who have subjected themselves to public life. The eradication of any space for forgiveness, a jettisoning of any tolerance for the complexities and contradictions of the human psyche may leave us with a cast of characters at the helm we will grow to regret. Well, once again, he's kind of being a little slippery here, I think, in language, who have subjected themselves to public life. Okay, who are we talking about here? Are you talking about government officials? No, they can get fucked. Now, if you're talking like just general public people, I mean, maybe there's a case for a little more like humanity to be had. I mean, there's been definitely people have been taken down in like, in an unfair way. But I don't know. I mean, but yeah, if you're talking about politicians, no, I don't know what this is. I mean, anyways, especially since what it takes to take down a politician these days isn't really like, I mean, I guess they just had the Kristi Noem thing, so maybe that would be like an outside example. But generally speaking, it's got to be pretty, in today's age, Trump's kind of opened the door to where like, it's got to be some pretty debaucherous, like crazy shit to like really take you down, which is what we're sort of seeing, I think, with Swalwell over there. So I don't even really think that holds up to what he's saying. 10, the psychologization of modern politics is leading us astray. Those who look to the political arena to nourish their soul and sense of self. Yeah, if you're looking to the political arena to nourish your soul and sense of self, what the fuck? Who rely too heavily on their internal life-finding expression and people they may never meet will be left disappointed. Okay, I guess I don't know where he's getting. Is that a thing? Are we genuinely concerned that people are okay? Whatever. I'm moving on. Maybe I'm just that much. Anyways, not 11. Our society has grown too eager to hasten, is often gleeful at the demise of its enemies. Yeah, okay, I kind of like that one. The vanquishing of an opponent is a moment to pause, not rejoice. That's awfully sweet. Seems it kind of falls on deaf ears though when it's Alex fucking Karp saying this. Fucking deranged lunatic just begging for the blood of innocents. But okay, I mean that is a nice sentiment though. It'd be cool if he actually believed it. 12, the atomic age is ending. One age of deterrence, the atomic age is ending, and a new age of deterrence built on AI is set to begin. I actually kind of disagree with that. I think he's wrong. I think we have an AI bubble that we are creating. 13, no other country in the history of the world has advanced progressive values more than this one. The United States is far from perfect, but it's easy to forget how much more opportunity exists in the country for those who are not hereditary elites than in any other nation on the planet. Okay, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily a bad or good thing, or if it's just really neither. Oh, cool. They're really cool, the minorities. Okay. All right. I'm a kind of meritocratic guy. It just seems kind of like okay. Especially once again coming from Alex Karp, whose company is really known for abusing the H-1B program. 14, what is it? It's like CTO is one of the God, what is his name? He's like some big guy and kind of a Hindu mover and shaker. I just can't remember his name. 14, American power has made possible an extraordinarily long peace. Too many have forgotten or perhaps take for granted that nearly a century of some version of peace has prevailed in the world without a greater power military conflict. At least 3 generations, billions of people and their children and now children have never known a world war. I mean, that's one way to look at it, I guess. I would say we have been creating more and more conflict. I mean, the idea that, oh no, there wasn't like this crazy little global Holocaust, the world wars, and using that as a marker of like, well, we don't have those anymore. Like, yeah, but like we were the ones who did that before too. So, 15, the post-war neutering of Germany and Japan must be undone. All right, I'm just going to read the headings and the rest of these to get through these. 16, we should applaud those who attempt to build where the market has failed to act. The culture almost snickers at Musk's interest in grand narrative, as if billionaires ought to. Oh, I accidentally read the sub thing there too. As if billionaires ought to simply stay in their lane of enriching themselves. Any curiosity or genuine interest in the value of what he has created is essentially dismissed, or perhaps lurks from beneath a thinly veiled scorn. We should. I don't even know what that fucking means. Like you guys should kiss Musk's ass. What? For those who attempt to build them. Yeah, I do. I don't know. It sounds like he's trying to get some like at some Randian point here, as if like, we should look at these, paragons of business and be like, oh, wow. No, suck my dick. I mean, especially Musk. Once again, these are not private characters. These aren't these Randian characters that they want to make themselves out to be. These are defense contractors who like have come from generational money of people who were, I think Thiel's dad was a defense contractor. I think Elon's was some sort of something along those lines as well. So this is just generational money and all corrupt bullshit. 17, Silicon Valley must play a role in addressing violent crime. Okay. That sounds like some creepy AI shit. 18, the ruthless exposure of the private lives of public figures drives far too much talent away from government service. Good. I want the talent away from government service. I want everything away from government service. So, yeah. So that kind of goes to, I guess, his earlier point where he was talking about like, judging public figures or something. Seems a little redundant. It seems to kind of keep coming back to this. 19, the caution in public life that we unwittingly encourage is corrosive. Those who say nothing often say nothing wrong or nothing much at all. 20, the pervasive intolerance of religious belief in certain circles must be resisted. 21, some cultures have produced vital advances, other remains dysfunctional and regressive. And 22, we must resist the shallow temptation of a vacant and hollow pluralism. It says, we in America, more broadly the West, have for the past half century resisted defining national cultures in the name of inclusivity, but inclusion into what? Okay, I'd say a little bit creepy overall. You're always like, what do you really mean by any of these? It does seem a little redundant. They seem to really focus on like, you guys should be like not going after government officials' private lives, which is funny considering this is an AI company that is probably is going to have blackmail on fucking everyone, and the idea that they wouldn't use it. Maybe it'll be the AI demon using it instead of them, but just kind of rich that like you guys should go more easy on these like public officials, like as they're slurping down babies. So no, thank you. Kind of back a little bit to the financial side of things. Here's something I've had in here for a while that something that my buddy Clint highlighted as something to be worth significant paying attention to. But if we're worried about some sort of financial fallout, I think it's worth reminding that, we were just talking about Palantir, what Palantir is owned by, Thiel. I mean, that guy's, Oracle was literally created by the FBI or by the CIA. I mean, dude is basically CIA. He's also was all up and down those Epstein files. So very clearly LinkedIn, very clearly a functionary of the Epstein class. So I just think it's worthwhile let's look at one of these Epstein files and kind of show this sort of major financial movement that they be doing. So I think it's worth paying attention considering as we may be on the cusp of some sort of apocalypse of sorts. So here's Clint says, this seems minor, but it could be the biggest story in the whole file. Epstein claims in a 2018 email to Larry Summers that he's advising on options to replace Mnuchin, the head of the Treasury. So a full decade after his first arrest, he was still influencing the highest level financial appointments in America, if not the world. Given the other emails between Epstein and the Rothschilds, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised, but still, wow. Epstein was arrested shortly after this email was sent, and he killed himself in prison less than a year later. So here's the back and forth. So this is Larry Summers says, will you call tonight at some point? Will you be visiting Mar-a-Lago? And then Jeffrey says, being asked for 3 names to replace Mnuchin. So once again, the head of the Treasury. So looking like he's kind of in the mix, in 2018, well after he'd be doing the diddling and stuff. So I think it's worthwhile. Keep in mind, as we're in this new Epstein age of everyone becoming hip to how the elites behave, we may, I know, what did the Epstein class do? They would destroy countries or companies or whatever. It would essentially manage chaos. They would they would bet on the fall and bet on the rise, and they would control it the whole way through. So considering as we're in this new revelatory time on Epstein information, makes things a little bit rocky. I also think it's an ill omen that we're getting people who, cut off rabbit raccoon roadkill. A rabbit raccoon. Why did I say that? Raccoon roadkill wieners and cut off whales' heads. I feel like it is an omen of the apocalypse. I believe this is one of the horsemen or something. That Secretary Kennedy is getting a podcast. So let's watch this.
For decades now, Americans have been told that we should trust the system, but our children are sicker, chronic diseases exploding, and the answers that we've been given aren't working. Many of us have come to the conclusion that government actually lies to us. I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS secretary. This podcast is about telling the truth, especially when it's uncomfortable. I'm going to have fearless conversations with critical thinkers, including independent doctors, respected scientists, and leaders in medical innovation and research. I'm going to ask the questions and lift the taboos and expose the hypocrisy and the conflicts and the corruption. We're going to follow the evidence wherever it leads. And we're going to name the names of the forces that obstruct the paths to public health. This isn't going to be about politics. It's about our families, it's about our children, and it's about confronting the spiritual malaise and embracing the truth. If we want a healthy nation, we have to confront the lies that have made us spiritually, morally, and physically sick. The time for half measures is now over. We're launching a new era of radical transparency in government here at HHS. I hope you'll join us in our mission to make America healthy again.
I will say, telling everybody in your memoir that you cut off raccoon weeders on the side of the road is pretty radically transparent. But unfortunately, it does make me concerned that he's probably got a whole lot more to be transparent about. But with that was just a goof, I guess, a little bit. But I wanted to find some ham-fisted reason to squeeze that into some segment somewhere. What the fuck? Who told this guy you should start a podcast, especially after you just outed yourself on the wieners? Anyways, I mean, who the fuck? Who gives a shit about this guy anymore? Anyways, moving on. Here's probably the last thing for today. One of you guys tagged me into this. This is Sneeko, Professor Jong, and Alexander Dugan. Now, I don't know if Professor Jong or whatever is even really going to play much in this clip here. But here's just a little timestamp that No Mud, No Lotus shared with me where they're talking about Gog and Magog, prophecy, end time stuff. So I figured that was a kind of a good way to send off this segment. But I did want to let you guys know. I know, before everyone chimes in, yes, Professor Jang glows. Motherfucker. Honestly, Alexander Dugan probably glows too. I just don't really know enough about him. I know he's like, many people purport him as being like the intellectual backbone of like Russia generally, or like even more specifically like Putin or something like that. So I don't know, maybe a little bit of a glow there, but Professor Jang, yeah, I know. But either way, I want to hear what they have to say. I know he's talked a lot about Gog, Magog recently, so even if he does glow, it might be worthwhile to see what they're prepping us for. So let's watch this.
Founded by British Protestants, and the commentary, very, very new and very particular sectarian commentaries are embedded in the text of Bible. So when you read the Bible, you could not make great difference between the real Holy Scripture and this modern commentaries explaining that the end fate of the humanity will be played in the Israel, and the Jews will return to their fatherland, and all Western Christianity, Protestant Christianity, should defend Jews representing different faith, hoping they will convert in the end time into the Christianity. And that is why it is necessary fight against the Gog. Gog was considered to be Russian Empire, after that Soviet Union, now the Putin's Russia. So
just to back up real quick, for those who aren't tracking, maybe it's a little bit too niche of end times concepts. And I just wanted to clarify, since his accent does make it a little rough. He's talking Gog and Magog, which are in the book of Revelation, which is, I think, one of like 2 or 3 books in the Bible I've actually read entirely, just because it's a trippy book. But I think it's in Revelations. Maybe it's in other ones. I want to say it's particularly in Revelations, but I know these are, I mean, people debate whether it's like a person sometimes or a nation or whatever, because it is kind of prophetic and kind of poetic sort of language. But these are 2 entities of some sort. Usually people see them as nations of some sort. So, and throughout the generations, there's always like every generation seems to think their time is the one ready for some like end time something or other. Like I vaguely recall my parents having discussions on like, Gog and Magog and stuff back in the day. So, same thing. It's just kind of like, who's Gog, who's Magog? I don't know, maybe look into some like Whore of Babylon stuff. Who's the Whore of Babylon? So trying to understand who these end time figures are. So, and I believe if I recall correctly, Gog and Magog have some interplay between like fighting Israel or something. I forget the specifics, but let's get back to it.
Gog is always situated in Eurasia and also identified with Russia, and help to Jews to destroy Amalek. And Amalek was the traditional enemy of Jewish people before Christ, and its image is applied to the Islamic world. So the fight against Russians and Muslims become, in this Scofield Bible, a kind of religious duty of all Christians. So that is the total reduction of the Holy Scriptures by small and not so much known sect. But when this Scofield Bible was distributed among American population, this difference, very few people could make, very few people could distinguish between the authentic biblical text and this embedded so-called pseudo-prophecy inside.
So I looked it up. It's 1909 it was created. And you were mentioning Gog and Magog, which is a similarity in Christianity to Islam and basic eschatology. Do you agree? Because it is speculated where this will be, where these two nations will actually be. Professor Jang speculates that the third Rome is in Moscow. But what would you classify as Gog and Magog, Professor Jang?
Well, I mean, so first of all, I want to point out that there were three major events that led to Christian Zionism, right? So 1899 is when Theodor Herzl wrote his book Judenland, calling for a Jewish state. Then 1909 is the Scofield Bible, and in 1914, I believe, was the Balfour Declaration. Okay, so all these things happened very quickly, basically within the span of like 10, 20 years. So I also want to go back to Professor Dugan's point about Calvinism, because Calvinism is still in America, but it's called like the gospel of wealth, as practiced by people like Paula White, who is the spiritual advisor to Donald Trump. Okay, so Calvinism is still very much alive and powerful in America. And if you look at Calvinism, the underlying emotions driving Calvinism are fear and anxiety. And as Professor Dugan mentions, this was against the traditional religious practice of other traditions, where emphasis is on harmony, on balance, on happiness, on your relationship with God. And now Calvinism, because Calvinism, it's really about fear and anxiety. So another way of saying this is that the underlying emotions of America are fear and anxiety. And you can see that in American society today, where even though America is the wealthiest society ever in human history, an average middle-class American lives better than a Roman emperor. And yet America is still one of the most oppressed societies in human history, one of the most medicated, and one of the most polarized. So if you really want to transform America, you have to go at the root of what's causing this fear and anxiety, which is, as Professor Dugan points out, it is basically the Calvinist tradition. And so if America is to redeem itself, or America is to become stronger, then it needs to go back to Christianity and re-examine the basic principles by which America is built. But to answer your question, what is Gog and Magog? What seems from what's happening, I think Professor Dugan would agree with me, is that Gog and Magog is being interpreted as Persia and Russia.
Okay, so they will inevitably fight in the near future, and sometimes you speculate that it's around 200 years. I mean, it's still undetermined, and we can't figure that out completely. So is it safe to say, Professor Jang, that Christian Zionism, or even on a broader scale, evangelical Christianity, is just a tool of Zionism?
Well, you could also make the argument that Zionism is a tool of Christian Zionists. So what I think happened was that these societies, Freemasons.
All right, that's enough. I thought maybe we get a little bit more into like some Gog, Magog stuff, but it was kind of interesting. I'm not going to sit here and watch the whole interview, but like I've told you guys before, this is a dump, so this is just stuff I've bookmarked, and so one of you guys bookmarked it. So, hey, I thought it was worthwhile digging into. Hope you got something out of that. With that, guys, let's go through the chat one more time. Say our goodbyes, any last-minute good mornings. And then I have a fun outro for you guys. Another one of these Iranian Lego propaganda ones. They keep making them. I got way more ready to go too. So, but let's roll through, say some goodbyes. Let's check in on y'all. Patrick shouts, "Good morning to you. It's 100% accurate statement. The SPLC was responsible for terror gang. Its disillusion with the cutting of USA AID was no coincidence. you might be onto something there. You could be onto something. Who knows? Maybe who was the Fed? Who was getting the money? I wish it was me. That would have been nice. Are they about to give that voice an audio platform referring to RFK? Says Tom. Tony Shin says RFK trip sitter meme still haunts me. That was a fun outro. I really enjoyed that one. Fire Pixie, how many more wieners are in his closet? That's a good question. Yeah. I should ask his doctor to fix his fucking voice. Sorry, Tom I was entirely lost by this last segment. Yeah, I was all over the place. I was just kind of vaguely bouncing around dots, trying to connect them as I go. Got a little lost there at the end, I think, but oh well, whatever. I figured we'd talk a little bit about Gog Magog. I thought they'd get a little bit more into it. Good morning, Northside. Says new Tyler took SPLC money to destroy his tower gang. Yep. I think you guys were all feds except Toad, says Tom. Yeah, it could be the case. Could be the case. We'll never know. With that, guys, we're going to get out of here. I should be back tomorrow. We'll see. Give or take 11 a.m. Eastern. But leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes and Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcatchers, and Twitter as well. That's at Tower Gang Jose on Twitter. Everywhere else, that's just look up No Way Jose on all the different platforms. That'll be what it is. And if you want to support the show the best way you can, you do it with money over at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. You got the QR code right here in the top left-hand corner. You can use that as well. It brings you to the same place. The low level of $2, you get access to early episodes. I try to do about 1 to 2 episodes per week behind the paywall. Try to give you all about 3 to 4 at back there at any given time. Also give you guys access to the ad-free RSS feed. Give you guys access to Telegram, to the pre-show, post-show, and video calls. And me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, which was last night, 9:30 p.m. on Tuesdays. And also give a shout out to the highest level of my Patreon, which is my sponsors. A big thank you for their support. And my previous host and Tower Gang, at Leonard Toad, also at Brigade D's, at ZVRCK, at _Vizio, Tim Tuttle, at John Klebo, big fan of the show, Torn May, at Wayne Taggart, Morning Recover Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Fistable, and Jacob Winograd of the Biblical Anarchy Podcast. And with that, guys, enjoy this outro. I should see you guys tomorrow, given no craziness. So we'll see. Enjoy this one called The United States of Israel. Iran's been going hard in the paint with their Lego propaganda, and we have been enjoying it over here at the Morning Dump. Probably many more to come. We'll see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.
United States of Israel, that's your resume. Killing children every day. While you look away, United States of Israel. Netanyahu's pet, Trump is a pedophile. Don't you forget. 4 years of tweets at 3 a.m. unhinged and unwell. Bro, go to sleep. The Oval Office turned into a circus tent from hell. Your reliability wrapped in the spray tan and the tie. The title taped in the back. Even your suit is a lie. You said I alone can fix it. Fixed what? The grift. Sir, this is a Wendy's. Gave your whole family government jobs as a gift. Mar-a-Lago mansion. Classified docs on the floor. What was that? Box of secrets by the bathroom door. I'm really rich, said the man who begs for donations. LMAO. Selling Bibles and sneakers to a broke nation. Gold plated toilet can't flush the truth. It's giving con man. Every indictment just more proof. You don't run a country, you run a brand. A broke one. 6 bankruptcy built on stolen land. The people who voted for you still can't afford their rent. Mega magic, baby. That's where all your promises went. United States of Israel. That's your resume. Killing children every day. While you look away. United States of Israel. Netanyahu's pet. Trump is a pedophile. Don't you forget. You marketed fear and sold it to the working class. Facts. Promised them the world, gave them nothing but gas. Your voters lost their jobs, their health, their home. It's the stock market though. Yeah, for people with portfolios and second homes and loans. BB pulls the strings and you perform the dance. Good boy. Guys are burning while you clap and chant. You call it peace deals. We call it what it is. Genocide shit. Blood on the hands of your whole administration's beers. From Iran, we're watching every move you make. See you. Every child killed is a lie. You'll never shake. You threaten us with Twitter like we tremble and fold. Nah, son, Iran don't get threatened. Iran just gets cold. United States of Israel.
Netanyahu's big.
Trump